Coming up on Access Tech Live.
Google unveils the Pixel 8, 8 Pro, and Pixel Watch 2. Can virtual reality help patients with MS? And Trick or Treat, making Halloween accessible for everyone.
This is Access Tech Live with Stephen Scott and Marc Aflalo. The latest in tech and accessibility every week. Follow us and get involved now at Access Tech Live.
Hey everyone, welcome to another week of technology news, and we have a lot to get through. Hi everyone, I'm Stephen Scott. With me as always, Marc Aflalo, who's in Montreal. Hey Marc, how are you this week?
I cannot complain. How's Glasgow treating you?
Well, it's treating me the way it always treats me, which is that I end up in a downpour. It's amazing I look this good. That is the reality of it, that every single day in Glasgow is a joyous, wet dream. So there you go. Anyway, hello and welcome to the show. Lots to get through over the next hour. Of course, tons of news as always. The big Google event, we'll be getting into all of that, talking about the hardware, but also the software, Marc, because I think the software is where it's at. So I know we're going to come to the headlines in a second, but I just want to tell you about what we've got coming up on the show today. Coming up, we will be joined by the wonderful host of Fashion This here on AMI TV. That is Ardra Shephard. She's also the owner of, the creator of an award-winning blog called Tripping On Air, which is also a podcast and YouTube channel available from AMI Audio and AMI on YouTube as well. And also it's available on the AMI Plus service, which we're going to be talking about a little bit later as well. So Ardra joining us today because she's at a cool event in Toronto, and she's here to tell us all the details. Plus, can you make trick-or-treating accessible? Not the most accessible thing, perhaps, although I will say the candy can be a little bit too accessible for me, but we'll come to that. Can you make those events accessible? We'll find out. All that coming up. But first, Marc has the headlines.
Now, Access Tech Live headlines.
Well, yesterday in New York City, Google officially took the wraps off the Pixel 8, Pixel 8 Pro, and the Pixel Watch 2. Let's start with the Pixel Watch 2. Here's James Park, the CEO and co-founder of Fitbit.
I'd like to introduce you to Google Pixel Watch 2. It's completely upgraded inside and out, including major performance improvements. And you're getting Google and Fitbit experiences you won't find on any other smartwatch, with the best of Fitbit health and fitness tracking.
Now, with health, fitness, safety, and productivity at the core, the new watch features an updated heart rate sensor and Google AI, which ties everything into fitness experiences like sleep tracking, high and low heart rate notifications, even skin temperature, and Fitbit stress management. There's also a new safety check feature on board, which lets you notify your loved ones that you're home safe and sound, and Google's Assistant ties in with Gmail, Calendar, and Maps are all on board as well. Finally, the watch is lighter. It features 24 hours of battery life with an always-on display and has a variety of watch bands and faces and accessories to keep you all nice and personalized. Next up from the Google event were the Pixel Buds Pro. Now, the Pixel Buds Pro, they're getting software updates across the board. That means the only hardware changes here are different color options. So if you got the Pixel Buds Pro last year, you're going to get the software updates. And these come with some pretty cool things, starting with Bluetooth super wideband and clear calling. Now, this feature reduces the noise around people on both sides of the call, something demonstrated on stage at Google's event by Rick Osterloh, Google's Senior Vice President of Devices and Services.
Just listen to the before and after.
Grabbing a coffee next to the office, and I got a few more meetings to get through and a quick errand, and I'm going to be ready to come out and join everybody for dinner. So are you still thinking of trying that place on 63rd? I've heard really great things about it.
You can really hear the difference.
Volume control is updated to support your hearing health and to make sure that you're not listening to anything too loud for too long. And conversation detection is pretty cool. It uses AI to detect when you start speaking. So if you're listening to music, the music will pause and the earbuds will switch to transparency mode so you can talk and have a conversation. And when you're done, the music will resume and it'll go back into active noise cancellation. Now, the true stars of the show this week were, of course, the Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro phones. Here again is Rick Osterloh.
Our latest phones bring together so many technologies from across Google. They're the first phones to use our latest Google Tensor chip. They include the very best Android experience, first-of-their-kind camera experiences, and the latest AI advancements from Google. From the inside out, Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro are built to deliver the help you need in a way that only Google can.
The Pixel 8 has a similar design to last year's, but upgrades come across the board, starting with the cameras, new security features, and all-day battery life. The Pixel 8 features the Tensor G3 chip, as he mentioned, and Google AI, which helps for everything on board, whether it's, the Google Assistant, even to photo editing. Now, the Pixel 8, again, the entry-level model, features a satin metal frame and polished back glass. The phone itself has a 6.2-inch display with variable refresh rates up to 120 hertz. Starts at $949 Canadian, available in hazel, rose, and obsidian colors. Now, the pièce de résistance, the Pixel 8 Pro, has the same all-day battery life and processor upgrades, but brings a 5x telephoto lens to the camera system and a 6.7-inch display. The display is brighter. It adjusts between 1 and 120 hertz for superior power performance and responsiveness. This year, there's also a thermometer on board, which lets you quickly check temperature of things like beverages, even cookware, simply by scanning them. Now, the Pro features a matte black glass and polished aluminum frame, and it starts at $1349 Canadian, available in bay blue, porcelain, and obsidian colors. Both of the phones are durable with IP68 dust and water resistance. They have super slim bezels, scratch-resistant glass, and both ship with Android 14 and will be available in a week from today, but up for pre-order right now. One other thing that Google announced and previewed at the event was more AI, specifically an upgraded version of their assistant tied in with Bard, their natural language model. The new assistant connects to your calendar, your email, your notes, everything to help you take action on your requests. Google's goal is to, and I quote, deliver the world's most helpful personal assistant. Here's Vice President and General Manager of Google Assistant and Bard, Sissy Heiso.
Open Assistant with Bard and say, catch me up on any important emails I missed this week. 3 important emails, including a party invite. Assistant with Bard can dig into the details for you. Where is Grayson's party? It can spot that the party is across the river in Brooklyn. How long will it take to get there? And just like that, you have quick directions from Google Maps.
Okay, so that wraps up Google for now. We're going to talk about it a little bit later. I want to get to some other news. Can virtual reality be used to treat patients with MS? Well, a new study published in the Journal of Neuroengineering and Rehabilitation shows that the use of VR is proving to be successful at improving balance and helping reduce the fear of falling for people with multiple sclerosis. A team of scientists in Spain conducted an analysis of clinical trials and found the results showed that the use of VR rehab is effective in improving patients' functional balance. The scientists did stress that more studies are needed to assess the long-term effects. Finally, Stephen, AMI, the channel we're on right now, has launched a brand new platform for its original content, including, of course, Access Tech Live. AMI Plus is a new site that showcases all of AMI's award-winning content in a beautiful, new, completely accessible portal. You can catch up with Access Tech Live, of course, other AMI original programming like Kelly and Ramya, Now with Dave Brown, Fashion Dish with Mary, and so much more. David Arrington is a president of Accessible Media, Inc., and shares why AMI Plus is an important step in showcasing all the great content created here at AMI.
What AMI Plus does is gives us another platform to put all of our original content on. Shows like Access Tech and Employable Me and Mind Your Own Business and Fashion Disc and all these wonderful shows, original content that we've been producing over the last 2 or 3 years. It's a platform that you can stream on any device. It's a platform that's completely accessible. We're very adamant about that. We tested this throughout and through in. And it allows people from our community to log on at any time and watch it on their time, on their demand, and fast forward and rewind and whatnot. So it's kind of the evolution of media. I can't be more excited. I'm thrilled with the way it turned out. I'm very, very happy.
And of course, Stephen, you can visit amiplus.ca and check that out right now. That was a whole lot of news today, wasn't there?
That's a lot to get through. And that's so great that we have this capability now to go to AMI Plus and catch up with all this wonderful content on demand as you wish to. So yeah, that is absolutely amazing. I just want to go back, because I know we're going to talk about Google a bit later, but I'm kind of intrigued about this thermometer that is built into the phone. Is that so that you can tell that your iPhone 15 is overheating? Is that what that's for?
Oh, you had to tie it in. You had to tie it in. No, it's not. I think it's when you're on a racetrack and you want to get the track temperature. That's what it's for. It's probably there for.
Hey, listen, a bit of an update there. If you are having issues with an overheating iPhone 15 or 15 Pro, there is an update, and that update will allow you to resolve that issue. And it means you can go back on and use Instagram again. You can go back on, Marc, and begin taking more photos of that beautiful face of yours and spread it all over the internet. Beautiful.
Yeah, I'll take your advice and do that right now. But you know what? You bring up something interesting, because we're talking Android, we're talking iPhone, and that leads us perfectly into the question of the week, which I think, Stephen, might ruffle some feathers. Do you want to take it away, or shall I?
Well, you know, I think I'm going to let you, because I feel I get into this argument on Double Tap all the time with people who say to me, here we go, the perennial question, which is
iPhone or Android? More importantly, why? We've got a poll up. You can check all our social media. I want to know what your choice is. I want to know why that's your choice. Unfortunately, BlackBerry is not an option up there, but we'll try to work that into a future one. If you wanted to get involved, of course, please do. That's the reason we're here, and that's the reason we're here live. It is at Access Tech Live on all our social media. And of course, our email address is feedback@accesstechlive.com. Let us know, iPhone or Android. Stephen, Ardra Shephard is a host of Tripping on Air, as you said, an award-winning blog and video podcast, and she's standing by and going to join us in a couple moments right here on Access Tech Live.
We want to hear from you. Follow us on social media and get involved at Access Tech Live. We'll be right back. The latest in tech and accessibility. This is Access Tech Live with Stephen Scott and Marc Aflalo.
Welcome back, everyone, and welcome along to the next segment of Access Tech Live, here live with you today. Of course, get in touch and answer that question of the day that we've been putting out there. We'll get to your answers a bit later. Marc Aflalo is with me. Also joining us today, special guest joining us, of course, the writer, the creator of the wonderful program Fashion Dis on AMI TV, also, as we mentioned earlier, on AMI Plus as well. She's also the writer and creator of a successful and award-winning blog called Tripping on Air. That is also a podcast and YouTube channel that you can go and subscribe to right now. So we're going to be talking to Ardra in just a few moments. Ardra Shephard is going to be joining us in just a few moments. We're just getting her set up to come on air.
This is what's fun about being live, Stephen. You know, you gotta go with it. You know, I work with Ardra on that Tripping on Air podcast. We produce that once a month, and the first episode of the second season is coming out, and I think about a week's time. A very, very cool episode. But you know what I'm looking forward to is she does an incredible gift guide with a lot of giveaways towards the holiday season. So it's something we're going to have her back on. Obviously, today she's going to be joining us to talk about this cool event that she's actually attending now that's happening in Toronto. But that gift guide definitely coming up down the road. But I had the pleasure of meeting her thanks to that podcast, which is pretty cool.
And, you know, there was an occasion where one of the shows was being produced, and I think you were busy for once in your life, you're busy, because, of course, you're never busy, right? So, you know, I stepped in and I took in that production role, and I was just sitting in awe, listening to Ardra and the team discuss the subjects they discuss. And, you know, it's one of those things that you might not think that a show about MS, about multiple sclerosis, would be something you might want to listen to. You might almost feel it's a little bit voyeuristic. You might feel it's something that, it's something that you might not feel comfortable listening to. You're intruding in someone else's conversation. It's absolutely not that. It's a wonderful conversation, and it's a wonderful
really
conversation
cool about people like Ardra, Stephen, who take their own experiences and empower other people by telling their story. Ardra joins us now live from an event. The event's called Hashtag So This Is MS. It's happening in Toronto. Ardra, number one, thanks for joining us here on the show. Can you tell us about the event? Like, what led to it, and what are people going to get out of this event when they're actually attending, or probably next year anyway, because it's happening right now?
Very happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. The event is called Hashtag So This Is MS. It is brought to us in the fine city of Toronto, but also all over the interwebs by EMD Toronto. So if you're not in Toronto today, you can still participate in the event by following the hashtag So This Is MS, but also by sharing your own stories of what it's really like to have MS. It's kind of a day to clear up some misconceptions and set the record straight. Here in person, we've got speakers, workshops, snacks. It's a lot of fun. It's a room full of people with shared experience and wisdom and humor, and I'm just having the best time.
Hey, Ardra, Stephen back in the studio. It sounds like it's a great event. My ears were pricked when you said snacks. That often gets me interested. But, this sounds like a great event. And you mentioned, of course, this is the name of the event is #SoThisIsMS. Social media is such an important tool, isn't it? And it's such an important tool for sharing those stories and connecting people.
Absolutely. Social media gets a bad rap, but I think when it comes to finding your people, especially when you've had kind of a marginalized experiences, something that's outside of the periphery, social media has the power to really connect us and be transformative. And it's the best thing about social media.
Ardra, now, when you and I talked about coming on the show, you said, I'm not that techie, but I love turning that on people sometimes because even though they say that, they don't realize that obviously technology has impacted their lives in some way, shape, or form. On social media, if it wasn't for social media and your blog and everything that you do, technology obviously plays a major role there. So I'm curious how those tools have assisted you on your journey personally.
Without technology, I would be screaming into the void or just with a megaphone on a street corner, I guess. I have been diagnosed with MS long enough that I remember what it was like to have MS before social media. So it's not just about being able to connect with others that have MS and any kind of chronic illness or disability, whatever. Finding and forming these communities on social media has really, I think, contributed to revolutionizing healthcare because it's broadened the conversation. Patients are more involved with healthcare and with doctors and with pharmaceuticals. It's much more collaborative, and we're really seeing a switch to include patients as partners in their own care. And that's, I think, really exciting.
But of course, technology itself can help there as well in that very area of healthcare. And we were just talking about a story at the top of the show in the headlines about how virtual reality is being used to help treat multiple sclerosis in some cases, helping, for example, with balance and things like that. Have you ever heard about these kind of treatments, or do you just roll your eyes when you hear about, oh, here's another treatment that involves technology?
No.
Or are you pro all this? Are you very much for this?
I am so for this because physiotherapy is so boring. And if there are fun ways to engage and improve, I'm really excited about what's happening in neuroplasticity and VR. It's not something I've used yet. I have used other technologies to help improve stuff, but the idea that I could turn improving my balance into a game, I'm so here for it. Tell me more.
Ardra, what are you hoping people get out of the event that you're at now? And more importantly, how can people follow you and the event if they want to learn more?
People can follow the blog, Tripping on Air, also the podcast, Tripping on Air, wherever you get your pods. I'm on Instagram, ms_Tripping on Air. But I would really, especially today, encourage everyone to search for the hashtag #SoThisIsMS and post your own stories and share stories of others within the community. I think that's what really this is all about. It can be really lonely when you feel like you're the only one, and then finding somebody that has experienced the same thing that you have that feeling of like, oh my God, me too. I thought I was the only one. It's so powerful, and it makes us stronger. It's such a great feeling. And MS is hard, but days like this, these are the kind of events that champion us and encourage us to keep going when things get hard.
Yeah, and it helps people get out of their shell, right? It gives people an opportunity to, as you said, building community is important because not only for obviously the connections you make, but just getting out there and giving you a reason to get out of the house and realize there's other people that are, like you out there. I got to ask you our question of the day while you're here because it's a controversial one.
Day. Go ahead.
Okay, it's a really controversial one. With Google having just made some announcements about the Pixel 8, are you an iPhone girl? You're an Android girl? Or what's the deal there? And why, more importantly, that choice?
I feel like I'm going to let you down here, Marc, but I regularly miss my 2007 Razor. I'm not a phone fanatic one way or the other. I have an iPhone because I'm lazy and it's the path of least resistance. But I will tell you, whoever comes out with the rollator, a cool rollator emoji first, that's the brand I'm going to be loyal to for the rest of my life.
Ardra, thank you so much for taking the time to join us again. Hashtag so this is MS. Get back to the show. We know you got a lot of things to talk about, and we hope you join us again, hopefully for that gift guide episode.
Absolutely. Yes. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
When we come back, Stephen, Android 14 is around the corner. We finally found a date for it. It's going to be next week. We're going to pick that apart, and we want to dive into some of those Google announcements because there's some stuff they didn't even talk about that I think are important to get to. And don't forget, of course, the question of the day that Ardra just answered. Hopefully, it's not a Razr or a BlackBerry. It's an iPhone or an Android. You let us know. This is Access Tech Live. We'll talk to you in a minute.
We want to hear from you. Follow us on social media and get involved at Access Tech Live. We'll be right back. The latest in tech and accessibility. This is Access Tech Live with Stephen Scott and Marc Aflalo.
Welcome back. I am Stephen Scott. He is Marc Aflalo. Just a reminder of that question we were asking you this hour. And I think it's a conversation, Marc, that is just going to go on and on and on, and maybe even cause arguments among people at home. I don't understand these people who are in relationships that have, one person has an iPhone and the other has an Android. How does that marriage continue without just forever fights?
Yeah, I have no idea. It's actually kind of confusing to me, considering all the. Listen, both platforms have their ups and downs, but both have these great family sharing features, right? So you can share apps and content and calendars. And so how do you coexist? I mean, I think there should be some kind of marriage license where you choose when you get married if you're iPhone or Android, and the officiant just says, sorry, this is just not going to work out. We can't proceed with the ceremony accordingly.
You know that bit in the ceremony when they say, does anyone have anything they'd like to say at this point?
Yeah.
And, Tim Cook stands up and says, actually, I have a comment I'd like to make here. I think, it's an interesting question we're asking this week. iPhone or Android, and why? And the key bit is why, right? Why would you choose one over the other? I know why I do. It's all about accessibility for me. And I'm not saying that the Android phone is less accessible. It's just that Google got to the accessibility table a bit later than iPhone did. And honestly, once you've got into a platform, once you start using it, that often is where it begins. And for a lot of blind people, I know that's the case for me. But I'd be interested to hear what other people think on this, because it's a wide range of viewers we have here, and I'd be intrigued to know your thoughts. You can get in touch across social media at Access Tech Live, and get in touch with us on email as well. Shall we talk Google, though? Because Google is the news of the day.
I'm curious, do you get Google envy? Like, do you get Android envy sometimes? Like, I get my hands on these devices sometimes. I'm like, oh, the hardware's nice and there's more options, and oh, look, the operating system's different, and sometimes you just want a bit different. I'm not feeling that just yet because, of course, with new iPhones having just come out, 2 weeks ago now, I don't feel that yet, but I do find myself getting Android curious. And I think the more they incorporate some of the smarts and the AI tools in there, and they show you those real world examples on how this could help you, and you realize that they have a leg up on other companies, you do kind of get envious, and you kind of want to put those things to the test, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. I must admit, I get envious of the hardware. I think the software is great. It really is. And there's some wonderful features we can talk about here. But I think for me, the hardware, the Pixel phone is a fantastic phone. I still have the Pixel 6a that Google sent me, what would that be, 2 years ago now? And it's a stunningly good phone. It really is. It's a solid, well-built device. I'm not saying it's better than the iPhone, but it is on its own, it is a very good device. And I should say to a lot of people, if you're buying into the Android ecosystem, you wouldn't go far wrong by just heading straight to the Pixel, because honestly, it's a great device.
Yeah. Accessibility features, you said Android, late to the game, but now that they're in the game, they've got some pretty cool ones. Are there any ones in particular that you like to call out when you have this conversation with people?
Well, yeah. So, there's a lot coming up, especially with Android 14, because, Android has similar accessibility features that you'll find across the board, whether it's a Mac or a PC, or whether it's an iPhone, or whether it's Android. You'll find similar types of accessibility features. So, for example, you'll learn about TalkBack, you'll learn about Zoom, you'll learn about low vision features, hearing features, motion features, features for people who have motor or dexterity problems. All those kinds of accessibility features exist, but there are a number of new ones that are coming out. And I have to tell you one in particular, which is not for the Pixel, it's for the Pixel Watch, which we're going to get to in a moment. Pixel Watch 2, of course, is the new hardware. I'm more interested in the software here, because as someone who's blind, I want to use TalkBack, which is the screen reader. It means when I tap my device, it is speaking back to me what you're seeing on screen. And I want that to be good. I want it to be solid. I want it to be fast and responsive and all those things. And up until now, even on the early Pixel Watch, it wasn't great. You had to do a lot of hacking and a lot of back-end work to make this thing really perform. And I often wondered, is it a hardware issue or is it a software issue? And the answer may be from actually earlier in the year from Google's I/O event, when they talked about the fact that TalkBack is going to get more fast, more responsive, thanks to a new text-to-speech engine they're bringing out in Wear OS 4, which will be coming out anytime now. So that is really cool. But Android 14 itself, it also has some cool new features. And the standout feature is live captioning, which is going to make a big difference. This means you can be on a call, you can see or listen back to a call, and also type a message and it be read aloud on the other end. That is a fantastic feature. And it is going to make a big difference to a lot of people, especially those who are deaf and also deaf-blind people as well, who use Braille displays with their device. So, lots of features that are baked in and built in. Also a big feature coming to Google Maps, which will go across Chrome as well as Android 14, is the ability for companies to label themselves as wheelchair accessible. This is really important, really important. So many friends of mine who are in wheelchairs who end up in this situation where they go to a restaurant, they're told it's accessible, they get there and there's a step to get in. That's not accessible, right? That's just not what that is. But if you are an accessible restaurant or cafe or shop or whatever, you can label yourself that way, and that will now show up as a search option in Google Maps. I think that's a fantastic feature. It's a small thing, but it's a big deal.
Some of the like the Google Lens type features using the camera do pique my interest. And they had an interesting demo on stage where someone was on a hiking trail and they pointed their phone at a sign, and the sign was able to, with the AI, it was able to read the sign and give them insight on the two directions they could have gone. They were at a fork in the road, and it said, okay, if I go left, it'll take you 10 minutes to get to this location, and that's what's going to happen there. But if you go right, it'll take you 12 minutes, but along the path, you'll see this beautiful sight on your right, and it's more friendly for traveling with your dog, which it knew that the person was doing because there was a dog in the photo. This kind of contextual AI really piques my interest, and it really gets me excited, because the fact that it can be aware of not only the surroundings that are there, but your particular situations. I could think about the accessibility perspective on this as well, where it can take into account whether you're using a mobility aid, whether you're in a wheelchair. All these kind of things are super interesting to me. And the other one that piqued my interest as well was live translation. And they demonstrated this on a Pixel Fold, which is that folding device that's not available in Canada right now. But the cool feature about it was that they were holding up a phone, and since there's a front-facing screen and, of course, the inside screen, the user was able to see and read one language, while the person on the other side of the phone could read things in their native language. So it helped break down the communication barrier a bit differently. And that's not really doing anything new, more than just taking Live Translate to a whole new level and taking advantage of the hardware. But I can see the useful applications like those.
Well, you think about the countries that you would love to visit. I mean, Japan sounds like an incredible country to go visit. But I immediately think about language barriers. I think about signs that I can't read. Now, I can't read them anyway, but the technology can see the sign. It can translate it into English. I can have a conversation in that way. This is where this technology is wonderful, because it breaks down barriers. And yes, accessibility is, of course, important in all of that. But the accessibility is important for me so that I can connect with other people, right? That's the key. And I have to say as well, a shout out to the Lookout team at Google as well. So Lookout is an app which is on the Google devices, again, through Android 14. It's going to be getting an update this year, which brings it into line with, if you've been following any of the stories, and of course we spoke last week, I think it was, to Be My Eyes, the CEO of Be My Eyes, Mike Buckley. He was telling us all about Be My AI, this wonderful tool that allows people to upload an image and have that image described. Well, Lookout is building in the same functionality using its own large language models through Google DeepMind that's able to look at that image, it's able to analyze it, give you contextual information, and then drill into the detail on that image. So, for example, let's say it's a family photograph. What was I wearing in that photograph? It will know it's me, and it will be able to tell me what I was wearing and give me the detail of all that. So this is really powerful stuff.
Temperature sensor in a phone. This is not meant to take the temperature of your child if they're crying and you're wondering if they're sick. It's meant for ambient temperature to find out what the dish in front of you might be in terms of temperature. Do you find a useful application for this? I know that we've talked about accessibility aids for like pouring tea and making sure that it doesn't go over the cup with those sound meter. Does a temperature sensor, do you find a practical use for something like that?
I'm just thinking of the idea of you just sit the phone on top of your mug as you're pouring the water in, and it just sort of screaming at you, it's getting warm. That could work, I suppose. I don't know. I don't know if there's probably an application in here I haven't fathomed yet. Someone will no doubt get in touch with us on social media and say, hey, why didn't you think about this? But I'm not seeing it at the moment. No, not with that one. But it's an interesting feature, and I think it's good that I'm trying to think what the reason behind it is. I get the ambient.
That's the same thing here. I really don't I don't know. Like, it doesn't make sense as to me. Oh, let's put a temperature sensor in. I'm going to buy this phone over that one because it has a thermometer in it. Doesn't really. And a watch, yes, I get body temperature metrics and stuff. Yeah, I don't get that. That's really strange. Pixel Buds Pro software update. This actually kind of excites me. And the way they demonstrated it, where you can be wearing your earbuds or an earbud and, be immersed in your podcast or your music. And if someone walks up to you or you want to talk to somebody, it automatically knows that you're doing that. So it ducks the volume and lets you talk to that person and opens transparency mode. That's kind of cool. I can see where that could go wrong in some cases. But that does, another example of AI and software standing out a little better than the competition. I think it's kind of in line with what that feature you talked about last week with the AirPods, kind of adaptively, adapting to your environment, but taking it to a next level, maybe.
It sounds like a very similar feature, which is rolling out, and which is cool about this. You don't have to buy the new hardware. You mentioned this earlier, that you don't have to buy the new hardware. You can just update the buds you already have if you have those Pixel Pro buds. But yeah, I think it's good. And I have to say, on the AirPods Pro 2, this is a fantastic feature, and it is a game changer because I can walk around all day with my earbuds in, or my AirPods in my case in. And I do, because I'm listening to voiceover all the time. I'm using it for GPS. There's always voices talking in my ear. One way or the other. I think it's really good that I can keep them in my ear, but still have that conversation. The conversation boost facility is amazing. And this is something which is great. I do see the problems. I mean, for example, if you're in a busy place and there's lots of people talking, how does it know that person's talking to you? Do you have to action it with your voice first? How does it work? Because surely it would just continually interrupt whatever you're listening to.
Can you imagine if you're on a busy subway or at some kind of event and just people, you're trying to listen to a podcast or something, and someone walks up and people are just walking by talking and you're just confused. We talk about price points, and these are pretty, expensive devices. You're talking about the phone starting, the Pixel 8 starting at $949 and the Pro at like $1,300, about $100 more than last year's models. But you posted something interesting on social media earlier today, an article from Mobile Europe about Canadian carriers offering subsidies and deals. This is something we haven't seen in a while. They've actually been shying away from this.
Yeah, that's right. It seems to have kind of come back, hasn't it, as an option. And what's cool is when Google's involved, and you don't get this with Apple, but with Google phones, you will often get an extra thrown in. Now, whenever you get something free, you think, okay, it's probably going to be terrible. But in this case, it's actually pretty good, because they're chucking in a Pixel Watch 2, or they're chucking in the Pixel Buds as well. So you can get that as part of the deal on some of those plans. So if you check out that article, I posted it on my Twitter earlier, or X as it is this week. Don't get me started on that. There's a story there as well. But didn't you see the way they're posting links now? Have you seen this? It's dreadful. Anyway, you'll find it on my feed at Blind Guy Tech, and you also find me on Mastodon as well. And you can check out the details there. But that will have all the information about all the various carriers throughout Canada. So kudos to Mobile Syrup for posting all that.
And of course, Stephen, we're going to be talking a lot about Android accessibility and diving into some of those features, in particular because it comes out next week, Android 14, obviously with the new Pixel devices, but other devices are going to be getting it. I've been playing with the beta for a while, so we're going to put something together for you at home to experience some of those features firsthand with us, so we can demonstrate how they work and the usefulness of them, which will be pretty cool. Coming up, guys, we've got a long-standing annual tradition. It's coming at the end of this month, but historically, it's not been the most accessible. However, one family in Toronto has made their mission to change that with an organization called Treat Accessibly. When we come back, the founder of Treat Accessibly, Rich Padulo, joins us on Access Tech Live. Stick around.
We want to hear from you. Follow us on social media and get involved at Access Tech Live. We'll be right back. The latest in tech and accessibility. This is Access Tech Live with Stephen Scott and Marc Aflalo.
Welcome back. This is Access Tech Live. I am Stephen Scott. He is Marc Aflalo. Now, Halloween is perhaps not the most accessible tradition you might think of when you think about having to go up to people's homes, and there's stairs and there's possible things in the way. Of course, with all the trick-or-treating that goes on, all the things people leave lying around the streets can be a little bit inaccessible. Well, joining us now to tell us about an organization that he and his family founded to combat this is Rich Padulo. He is the founder of Treat Accessibly. Now, you're joining us from outside your home, so it might be a little bit windy where you are, I'm guessing. Rich, tell us, first off, why you decided to create the company.
Well, first off, happy Halloween. And
happy Halloween,
thank you so much for sharing the message. And I thought it would be apropos to do the interview in front of a lawn sign, kind of in situation. So we created a lawn sign much like this in 2017. We had a little boy living on our street who used a mobility device. And we were putting pumpkins on our stairs, and we realized very quickly that he wouldn't be able to treat at our home. My daughter, Sienna, who was 6 at the time, and I chatted about it, and she got it right away. And from the mouth of babes, we developed the phrasing accessible trick-or-treating. And the icon image in the background was created by our dear friend, and a visual description of it is a forward motion wheelchair with a cape blowing in the wind. And that Halloween, we had 7 homes attend our home to trick-or-treat, or 7 families attend our home to trick-or-treat. And of those 7 families, the parents shared mobility, sensory and intellectual disabilities that limit the fun due to the barriers of the traditional house at Halloween and the traditional experience of a stranger behind the door, or stairs, or lighting, or sound. And after hearing from those parents, who we are parents, it resonates with us. We identify with them. We didn't want any kids missing out on a very social and important experience in their youth. And that's when we started the movement. And as of 2023, there's about 150,000 of the lawn signs, like the one you see behind me, or the one that people will put on their front lawns. And we're very appreciative to this Canada for the support. We're also having 9 Treat Accessibly Halloween villages, where a street in 9 cities closed down to treat accessibly from their driveways. It starts in Halifax on October 15th and ends October 22nd in Surrey, British Columbia. So, and that wouldn't happen unless the homeowners decide to cancel one of their Saturdays or Sundays and throw these events. And anyone can register for our events at treataccessibly.com, or get tips, or find out where they can get signs. While we support the accessibility community, which represents 22% of Canada, our goal is to get the other 78% championing kids and families with disabilities. Thank you. You're showing beautiful pictures from our events that present families getting treats from the driveways of all the participants. And that's really the goal. 90% of what you have to do as a homeowner is just treat from the street or from your driveway, really, to remove stairs and the barrier doors, and allow a lot of kids to stay closer to parents without feeling awkward in the process of doing that. And then siblings can treat together who may not be able to usually, and even parents with disabilities reach out and thank us for the movement, because they can hang out with their kids and be closer to the kids. And our events are for kids with and without disabilities at the Halloween villages. We want everybody treating together, and we want people walking or rolling away knowing that they can be together at all times.
Rich, it's an incredible movement, and I've got to ask you along your journey here. You know, I know in my neighborhood, people go a little crazy when it comes to decking out their homes and doing things like smoke and the lighting and stuff like that. Anything stand out to you along this journey of yours as super impressive homes? The way people have taken things to next levels to make the experience even better for the kids that are showing up.
Sure. So I love all the Halloween Village streets that participate. But the first street we ever did this on was in Toronto on Queens Drive. And they're doing it again this year. They signed up to do it before the first event ended, the second year. Now they're going into their third. They build by themselves massive spiders to hang from their houses. They have installed doorways or door frames at the end of their driveways to simulate, but without the barriers, an actual door-to-door experience, just regardless of the fact that we're doing it house to house via the driveways. So those have been really special. But I think it's the parents of the kids most impacted by the event, speaking to the homeowners that are holding the events, that is well, to use a Halloween term, spellbinding. It's, we hear stories about this is a son's first Halloween where he's never been able to trick or treat, and he's 18 years old. So our goal is really to make sure no kid has to turn 18 before it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Rich, where can people find out more information about the events?
Sure. They can go to treataccessibly.com. And I promise I don't tear up on the website when I talk about the movement. So feel free to go there. You won't get the emotional impact, but I blame you guys for asking that question. But it's go to treataccessibly.com. We've got pages of dedicated to the Halloween Village registration. Again, 9 cities from Halifax, Ottawa, Oakville, Toronto, Hamilton, Ottawa, Edmonton, St. Albert, Calgary, and Surrey, and I'll be at 8 of them, I think. Yeah, and we have a page dedicated to where to get lawn signs. You can ask your local RE/MAX office. We've also partnered with Pumpkins After Dark, which have events in 5 regions of Canada, and the most ardent Halloween fans go there. So we hope they will pick up one of our signs. A beautiful story you can find from our book or from our website, and it's a beautiful story, literally. Grandmother saw us on the news. Her grandson has a mobility disability, and she wrote a children's book about her grandson experienced trick-or-treating thanks to Treat Accessibly. It's called Atticus Goes Trick-or-Treating, and you can find it on our website. Everything about our movement is free. The only thing that we direct you to that you purchase is the Atticus Goes Trick-or-Treating book, and it supports the real life Atticus. We ended up, thanks to Canadian Tire, purchasing 5,000 copies of Atticus Goes Trick-or-Treating so we can treat those to 5,000 families. And versus any kind of gift you give out, we want people to re-gift that. We hope to have, we ask every family who gets one to make sure it gets re-gifted at least 4 times before Halloween. So we can aim at getting about 100,000 families reading it by Halloween night, and hopefully getting them to accept and become a Treat Accessibly home.
Rich, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Again, the website is treataccessibly.com. Those villages start next week, which is why we're getting the head start here on Halloween. And we hope to have you back on next year to talk about all the excitement that comes around. We got to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to give you some of my Halloween tips on the tech side to make your home a little bit fun. But don't forget that question of the day, which is iPhone or Android? Which one are you going to choose? Let us know. This is Access Tech Live. We'll be right back.
We want to hear from you. Follow us on social media and get involved at Access Tech Live. We'll be right back. The latest latest in tech and accessibility. This is Access Tech Live with Stephen Scott and Marc Aflalo.
Welcome back, and before we get to the comments, because I know we're going to go to feedback now, but before we do that, Marc, I just want to ask you, from a tech point of view, what do you do at Halloween? Because I can only imagine what your house must be like at Halloween.
Oh, well, I mean, I used to go pretty analog, COVID kind of started the trend where you just kind of throw a pipe on your stairwell so you can, send treats down to people, which, by the way, makes your home with stairs accessible. I do go a little bit crazy. Like, I take advantage of things like my Philips Hue smart bulbs being on the outside of my house, and I make them flicker orange in different colors. I got a smoke machine on Amazon for under $30, and I managed to trigger that with a motion sensor. So as you're walking up my walkway, it'll trigger off the smoke machine to start blowing smoke out of there, and a little strobe light, and then I use my smart.
Not great for anxiety. Great.
If you're anxious or you don't like flashing lights, don't come to my house. I know people that use projectors and they project stuff into smoke, which is kind of fun. And of course, your smart speakers. There's so many things you can do with the smart speaker to make it like howl at the moon and different things like that. So you can have a lot of fun with tech when it comes to Halloween, and people do kind of go all out. Trust me.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, so lots of people getting in touch, I guess, on the perennial question of the day, of the year, of the decade, iPhone or Android, and why?
Okay, so let's start with Jeremy. Jeremy sends us, he says, Android because I like the user experience and Google's design choices more than Apple's. Okay, I get that. The iPhones look pretty, but are less intuitive to use, in my opinion. We can agree to disagree, Jeremy, there. If you want. I think
so.
We can do that. Vivian writes, why can't an old school BlackBerry be an option? I knew someone was going to come in with a BlackBerry question here. There always is. And I've got a classic BlackBerry Classic somewhere lying around here as well. So why can't an old school BlackBerry be an option? LOL. Okay, I'll go with Android because I can customize it more than the iPhone. I mean, is that really true anymore? Like, we've gotten pretty customizable on the iPhone. I'm not defending anybody here. Okay, I'll go either direction.
I think the customization argument's a bit old these days.
Yeah, okay. So let's not customization, but you can do things on the iPhone. And this is a good one. Here's one from Marc Ferrazano. He writes, having used both, they both have merit depending on what you do. And more importantly, what the rest of the family has. You see, that's what I thought someone was going to get to, because as we said off the top, I mean, this is divorce-worthy stuff. If you've got a girlfriend who's got an Android, you got to work on that. Like, that's a big issue.
This has got to be in a Tinder profile, right? Tinder profile somewhere. It's going to be, I'm an Android user, and they just swipe on.
Well, you talked about, Google Maps adding, wheelchair accessible. This needs to be in our social media profiles. You need to know iPhone or Android, and you should just have the option to skip if you need to skip. I think that just should be the answer to it. Well, I mean, what would you say? I mean, you obviously, because of the accessibility, but in your world, what do you see most of?
I see iPhone. Everywhere. And it's strange. It feels as if, and I don't know, where I live in the UK, it's a very class-based society. And I think iPhone is seen as a higher class than Android. And I don't know, I'm starting to feel that spreading around the world a little bit, that attitude as well. I don't think it's fair, though, because like we said earlier, the hardware that we're seeing, the technology, the features, we didn't even talk about call assist. We didn't mention the Pixel Watch 2, which could be the most accessible smartwatch yet from Google. So I'll be interested to find out more about that in the coming weeks. Hopefully we'll get hands-on with all this stuff and get a chance to play. But, I think that we need to maybe get away from this division approach and live harmoniously. And that involves Apple actually involving Google when it comes to message. I think iMessage should be on Android. There, I said it.
Wow, he did say it. You know what? That's all the time we have, and it means we're going to have to spend some time on future episodes talking about that Pixel Watch 2 and talking about all these other things that were kind of left on the cutting room floor this week. Don't worry. On behalf of everybody here at Access Tech Live, Rich Padulo, our guest, Ardra Shephard, he is Stephen Scott. I am Marc Aflalo. We look forward to chatting with you again on our next episode if they let us come back. Thanks for watching Access Tech Live, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to Access Tech Live. Follow us online at all social media at Access Tech Live. Email us feedback@accesstechlive.com. Hosted by Stephen Scott in Glasgow and Marc Aflalo in Montreal. Written by Stephen Scott and Marc Aflalo. Live show director, Anastasia Spalding Stenhouse. Technical director, Caitlin Robinson. Audio, Jordan Mulgrave. Live graphics and playback, Kingsley Juco. Graphics coordinator, Eliza Rocco. Integrated described video specialist, M. Williams. Supervising producer, Michelle Dudas. Copyright 2023, Accessible Media Inc.
an AMI original production.